The Grand Meridian Hotel lobby existed in perpetual golden hour. Afternoon light poured through floor-to-ceiling windows, catching on marble columns and crystal chandeliers. The air smelled of imported lilies and wealth. Amara Wells stood near the curved staircase, polishing a brass railing. Her emerald green uniform was crisp and anonymous. She moved with quiet efficiency, the kind that made people look past her. The revolving door spun. Marcus Harrington entered like a storm front in an ivory suit. Two associates flanked him, scrolling through tablets. His gold cufflinks caught the light as he gestured, mid-conversation about quarterly projections. He stopped mid-stride, looked down. A scuff marked his left shoe, barely visible but apparently intolerable. His eyes scanned the lobby, landed on Amara. "You." His voice carried across marble. "Come here." Conversations paused. Guests pretended not to watch. Amara turned slowly, meeting his gaze. She didn't move toward him. Marcus's jaw tightened. He pointed at his shoe. "These need cleaning now." The silence thickened. Amara's fingers tightened on her polishing cloth. Her heartbeat was steady thunder in her ears. "I don't have all day," Marcus said, louder now. "Are you deaf?" One of his associates shifted uncomfortably. A woman in pearls looked away. Amara walked forward, each step deliberate. She stopped 3 feet from him. "Clean them," Marcus said, "or find another job." She looked at his shoes, then at his face. Her voice, when it came, was quiet steel. "No." 3 weeks ago, Amara had walked through these same doors carrying a single suitcase and a forged resume. The hotel manager barely glanced at her before assigning her to housekeeping. She'd requested evening shifts. Fewer questions that way. She worked silently, efficiently, invisibly. The other staff knew nothing about her, except that she showed up early and never complained. The Grand Meridian catered to a specific ecosystem. Tech moguls refreshing between board meetings, old money families maintaining summer traditions, politicians brokering deals over cognac in leather chairs. Amara had grown up around these people, not as staff, as one of them. Boarding schools in Switzerland, summer homes in Martha's Vineyard. Her father's name whispered in financial circles with equal parts respect and caution. Solomon Wells, private equity legend. Dead 2 years now. She'd inherited everything. The portfolio, the reputation, the suffocating expectations. Grief had made her reckless. She'd disappeared from that world, needing to remember what ground felt like. The hotel was perfect, anonymous. She could observe power from the other side of the curtain. She kept a worn leather journal in her locker, her father's last gift. Inside, his handwriting offered lessons in negotiation, ethics, leverage. The final page simply read, "Dignity is not given. It's claimed." She'd been claiming it quietly for 3 weeks. Watching how wealth moved, how cruelty hid behind politeness, how easy it was to become invisible when you wore the wrong uniform. Tonight something shifted. She was tired of being unseen. Marcus Harrington didn't recognize defiance when it wore an emerald uniform. His face darkened like a bruise. "Excuse me?" His voice dropped to something dangerous. Amara stood perfectly still. "I said no." One of his associates touched his elbow. "Marcus, maybe we should stay out of this." Marcus stepped closer. The scent of expensive cologne mixed with entitlement. "Do you understand who I am?" "I understand exactly who you are," Amara said. A muscle jumped in his jaw. "Then you understand I can have you fired with one phone call?" "Probably." "Then why—" He gestured sharply at his shoes. "This is your job. Clean them." The lobby had gone completely silent. A concierge pretended to organize papers. 2 guests near the elevator watched openly now. "My job is housekeeping," Amara said. "Not personal servant?" Marcus laughed, sharp, incredulous. "Do you know how many people would kill for your position? How replaceable you are?" "Very," Amara said. "But replacement doesn't erase what just happened." His associate's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then at Marcus with barely concealed alarm. "You're making a mistake," Marcus said, voice rising. Do you understand what happens to people who disrespect me? Amara's hands had stopped shaking. Something cold and clear settled in her chest. Why don't you tell me? Marcus turned to the front desk. Manager, now! A thin man in a charcoal suit hurried over, face already apologetic. Mr. Harrington, I'm so sorry for... Fire her, Marcus said flatly. Immediately. The manager's eyes darted to Amara. Sir, perhaps we could discuss... There's nothing to discuss. She refused a direct request. She's insubordinate. Marcus straightened his ivory suit jacket. Get her out of my sight. Amara felt the weight of 24 gazes. She thought of her father's voice. The moment you kneel for cruelty, you teach it to demand more. I'll collect my things, she said quietly. Marcus smiled. Victory confirmed. He turned back to his associates, already dismissing her existence. That was his first mistake. Amara walked toward the staff corridor, her heartbeat finally catching up to what just happened. The manager followed, stammering apologies mixed with justifications. She barely heard him. Everything felt distant, muffled, like swimming underwater. In the staff room, she opened her locker with steady hands. The leather journal sat on top of her spare uniform. She touched its worn cover, feeling her father's presence like a hand on her shoulder. Did I just throw away my anonymity over a pair of shoes? No, not over shoes. Over the assumption that her uniform made her less human. Over the casual cruelty that people like Marcus wore like a second skin. She'd spent 2 years hiding from her father's world, from the pressure of his legacy, from the weight of being Solomon Welles's daughter. Brilliant, ruthless, uncompromising Solomon Welles. But maybe hiding wasn't the answer. Maybe he'd taught her these lessons for exactly this moment. The manager hovered in the doorway. Miss, I'm sorry, I don't even know your last name. Wells, Amara said softly. Amara Welles. His face remained blank. The name meant nothing to him. That was the problem with real power. It didn't need to announce itself. She closed her locker, picked up her journal. Somewhere in the lobby, Marcus was probably laughing about the uppity maid who thought she mattered. He had no idea what he'd just unleashed. 15 years earlier. Amara sat in her father's office, legs swinging from an oversized leather chair. Solomon Welles reviewed contracts at his desk, occasionally glancing at his 12-year-old daughter. Pay attention, he said gently. Real education doesn't happen in classrooms. She watched him work. The way he read between lines. How he asked questions that seemed simple, but revealed everything. His philosophy. Invest in struggling companies, transform them, make everyone richer, including the workers. Why do you always visit the factories? She asked once. Because the workers know the truth, he said. CEOs lie, balance sheets lie. But the person on the floor, they know if the machinery's failing, if management is corrupt, if the company has a soul worth saving. He took her to negotiations, taught her to read body language, voice inflection, the silence between words. By 16, she could spot a liar across a conference table. Power isn't about dominance, he told her, during a flight to close a deal. It's about understanding what people need and whether you can provide it ethically. She absorbed everything. His lessons on leverage, integrity, the difference between respect and fear. When he died sudden, a heart attack during a morning run, she inherited a portfolio worth billions, companies, real estate, debt holdings in half the major corporations on the East Coast. She was 23, grief-stricken, overwhelmed. So she ran, changed her name on applications, took cash jobs, tried to remember who she was without his shadow. The hotel was supposed to be another hiding place, a few months of anonymity before facing her inheritance. Instead, it became something else, a mirror, showing her exactly what her father had always warned against. Power without accountability, wealth without empathy. Marcus Harrington represented everything her father despised, and Amara suddenly remembered exactly who she was. The lobby was calmer now, the drama absorbed back into polite murmurs. Marcus stood near the concierge desk, scheduling a car. His associates clustered nearby, scrolling through phones. Amara moved through the space like a ghost, heading toward the exit. Nobody looked at her directly. The invisible maid, now officially invisible, then she saw it. On a marble side table near the elevators, a Wall Street Journal folded open to the business section. The headline practically glowed. Harrington Empire seeks $500 capital infusion amid restructuring concerns. She stopped, picked up the paper, read quickly. Marcus Harrington's real estate empire was overextended. Aggressive expansion into international markets had left him cash poor. He needed a major capital partner or several nervous lenders to remain patient. Her mind worked automatically, pulling information from memory. Her father's portfolio. The files she'd been avoiding for 2 years. Solomon Welles had invested heavily in Harrington's debt 5 years ago, 40% of his commercial real estate loans, structured as callable notes, meaning they could demand full repayment with 60 days' notice. If those notes were called, Marcus would have to liquidate properties at fire sale prices. His empire would crumble, and Amara controlled those notes now. She looked across the lobby. Marcus was laughing at something his associate said, completely unconcerned. He'd already forgotten the maid he'd humiliated. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered automatically. Ms. Wells? The voice was familiar. Richard Chen, her father's former business partner and her current portfolio manager. I've been trying to reach you. We have the Harrington portfolio review scheduled for tomorrow morning. Your signature is required on... His voice carried slightly. Not loud, but in the marble acoustic lobby enough. Marcus's head turned. His expression shifted from confusion to dawning suspicion. Amara met his eyes across 20 feet of expensive emptiness. She didn't smile. Didn't flinch. Richard, she said clearly, I'll be there. And I want full documentation on the Harrington debt structure. Every clause. The lobby went completely still. Marcus's face drained of color. Marcus crossed the lobby in 6 strides. His ivory suit seemed less pristine now, creased with sudden tension. What did you just say? His voice was controlled, but his eyes betrayed panic. Amara lowered her phone. I was confirming a meeting. About your debt portfolio. That's impossible. He laughed, but it sounded hollow. You're a maid. I'm several things, Amara said quietly. One of his associates was already typing frantically on his phone. His face went pale. Marcus, we need to talk privately. Not now, now. The associate turned his screen. Marcus looked. His jaw clenched. The manager appeared confused and terrified. Is there a problem, Mr. Harrington? Marcus ignored him. His eyes never left Amara. Solomon Welles, that was your father? Yes. And you're working here as... He gestured vaguely at her uniform, words failing him. Observing, Amara said. Learning what happens when people think you don't matter. His phone rang. He answered without breaking eye contact. Not now. Pause. What do you mean the board is calling emergency session? Longer pause. His face hardened. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call. Turned to his associates. Find out everything. I want her background, her position, every company she controls now. They scattered like frightened birds. Marcus stepped closer to Amara. If you think you can leverage some inherited money into 40% of your commercial real estate debt, Amara interrupted softly, callable with 60 days' notice. Current market conditions make refinancing nearly impossible. You know this because you've already tried. His face went from red to white. You're bluffing, am I? The silence stretched between them like a wire. Finally, Marcus spoke. What do you want? Amara picked up her cleaning cloth from a nearby table, folded it carefully. Right now! I want to go home. She walked toward the exit, leaving him standing in his crumbling ivory empire. Amara made it 3 steps outside before her hands started shaking. She leaned against the hotel's limestone exterior, breathing carefully through her nose. What had she just done? Her phone buzzed continuously. Richard calling back. Her lawyer. Board members she'd been avoiding for months. The machinery of wealth activating around her sudden reappearance. She'd wanted anonymity, peace, time to grieve without the weight of her father's legacy crushing her. Instead, she'd just weaponized that legacy against a man who'd treated her as disposable. Her phone rang again. This time she answered. Amara, Richard's voice was careful. I'm seeing some unusual activity around the Harrington portfolio. Did something happen? He told me to clean his shoes, she said quietly. Silence, then, I see. In front of everyone. Like I was, her voice caught. Like I was nothing. What do you want to do? That was the question, wasn't it? She held more power in this moment than Marcus Harrington could imagine. One signature could destroy everything he'd built. Her father's voice, memory clear. Power without purpose is just cruelty wearing a better suit. Schedule the meeting, she said. Tomorrow morning. Harrington and his full executive team. Amara, if you're planning to call the notes, I'm planning to have a conversation, she said. About respect? And what it costs when you forget where it begins. She ended the call. Looked back at the hotel's golden windows. Inside, Marcus Harrington was probably making calls, mobilizing lawyers, trying to contain a situation he didn't yet understand. He thought this was about money. He had no idea. Amara's apartment was small, anonymous, nothing like the penthouse she'd abandoned. She sat on the floor with her father's journal open in her lap. The confrontation replayed in her mind. Marcus's face when he realized who she was. The power shift so sudden it left scorch marks on the marble. But underneath the satisfaction was something heavier. Doubt. She'd run from her inheritance because it felt like drowning. Her father's reputation was a lead weight, brilliant, ruthless, uncompromising. Everyone expected her to be the same. To step into his empire without hesitation. She wasn't him. She'd never be him. And now she was using his weapons, his leverage, his world. Is this who I want to be? Her phone sat silent on the floor beside her. She'd turned off notifications. Outside, the city hummed with its usual indifference. She opened the journal to the last page. Her father's final entry, written the morning he died. True power isn't domination. It's the ability to create change, to look at broken systems and refuse to accept them. Amara, when you're ready, you'll understand. The inheritance isn't money. It's responsibility. Use it to build something better than what I left you. Her vision blurred. She touched the words, feeling the slight indentation of his pen. He'd known. Somehow he'd known she would struggle with this. The question wasn't whether to use power. It was how to use it without becoming what she despised. Marcus had humiliated her because he could. Because nothing in his world taught him that. Consequences existed for men like him. Maybe. That was the lesson he needed, and maybe teaching it was exactly the responsibility her father had meant. Morning came with clarity. Amara dressed carefully. Royal blue suit, her father's watch, hair pulled back severely. Every inch the portfolio manager she'd been avoiding becoming. Before the meeting, she did research. Real research. Harrington Empire's structure was complex. Real estate holdings across 3 continents. Luxury developments. Commercial properties. On paper, impressive. In reality, built on aggressive debt, tax avoidance structures, and, she discovered, systematic labor violations. She pulled employment records. Wage theft complaints dismissed quietly. Discrimination lawsuits settled with NDAs. Workers paid minimum wage while Marcus collected millions. But there was complexity too. A children's hospital wing bearing his name, scholarship funds for underprivileged students. He wasn't cartoon villainy. Just a man who'd learned that wealth insulated him from consequences. Until now. Richard met her outside the conference room. He brought 4 lawyers. Good, Amara said. He'll need them. What's your play here? She looked through the glass. Marcus sat at the conference table, surrounded by legal pads and grim-faced attorneys. He looked older than yesterday, tired, not revenge, she said. Accountability. Richard smiled slightly. Your father would be proud. My father would have crushed him in 10 minutes, Amara said. I'm trying something different. She opened the door. The room fell silent. Marcus stood reflexively, then caught himself. His lead attorney gestured for him to sit. Amara took the head of the table, set down a folder, met Marcus's eyes. Thank you for coming, she said. Let's talk about what happens next. Marcus leaned back in his chair, projecting false confidence. Ms. Wells, I apologize for yesterday's misunderstanding. Misunderstanding, Amara repeated softly. I didn't realize who you were. That's the problem. She opened her folder. You didn't think you needed to realize. I was wearing a uniform, so I was disposable. His jaw tightened. I'm prepared to offer compensation for any... I don't want your money. Amara slid documents across the table. I want you to look at these. Marcus's attorney picked up the papers. His expression shifted. Where did you get these? Public records. OSHA violations. Wage theft complaints. Discrimination settlements. Amara's voice was steady. Your company has paid $8 million in the last 3 years to silence workers. That's business, Marcus said. Frivolous lawsuits. Frivolous. Amara pulled out another sheet. Maria Gonzalez, housekeeper at your Boston property, worked 60-hour weeks without overtime. When she complained, she was fired. Settlement, $40,000, NDA included. Silence. David Chen, maintenance worker, exposed to asbestos without proper equipment. Hospital bills reached $200,000. Your company offered $30 and a gag order. Marcus's face was stone. Are you cherry-picking 47 cases? Amara's voice cut through his. In 3 years. That's not cherry-picking. That's a pattern. His attorney leaned over, whispering urgently. Marcus waved him away. What do you want? Marcus asked flatly. Amara stood. Walked to the window. Yesterday you told me I was replaceable. That people would kill for my position. I was frustrated. You were honest, she turned back. You genuinely believe some people matter less. That wearing certain clothes or doing certain jobs makes them disposable. You asked me to clean your shoes in public because you could. Amara's voice was quiet thunder. My father invested in you 5 years ago because he saw potential. He believed in second chances. Marcus said nothing. I'm deciding today whether to honor that belief, Amara continued, or to call every note he held. 60 days, full payment, current market rates. His attorney went pale. That would force liquidation. I know exactly what it would force. Amara returned to her seat. So here are my terms. She slid a single sheet across the table. Marcus read it. His face cycled through disbelief, anger, and finally resignation. Living wages. Full benefits. Independent ethics review. Worker representation on boards. He looked up. This would cost millions. You can afford it, Amara said. Your profit margins are 22%. You'd still be wealthy, just not obscenely so. And if I refuse, then I call the notes. You lose everything. And I buy your properties at auction and implement these policies anyway. The room was silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Marcus's attorney cleared his throat. We need to discuss... No. Marcus stared at the document. At Amara, finally he spoke. Why does this matter to you? You're worth billions. You could have stayed hidden forever. Because yesterday I remembered something, Amara said. My father taught me that dignity isn't negotiable. That respect is the foundation of everything. You forgot that, and someone needed to remind you. Marcus picked up a pen. His hand hesitated over the signature line. Sign it, his attorney urged, or lose everything. He signed. 6 months later, Amara stood in her father's old office, now officially hers. The Wall Street Journal lay on her desk. Harrington Empire announces landmark labor reforms. The article detailed living wages, expanded benefits, worker protections. It mentioned guidance from key stakeholders but never named her. She'd insisted on that. This wasn't about credit. It was about change. Her phone buzzed. Text from Richard. Board meeting in 20, ready. She picked up her father's photograph. Solomon Wells smiled at the camera, pride evident even in stillness. I think I'm starting to understand, she said softly to the image. The inheritance wasn't money. It was the responsibility to use power correctly. To see broken systems and refuse to accept them. Another text arrived. Unknown number, thank you. Maria Giamara blinked. Maria Gonzalez. The housekeeper from the documents. Somehow she'd found Amara's contact. The message continued. My daughter starts college next month. Because of you. Thank you. Amara sat down heavily. This was what her father meant. A knock on the door. Her assistant entered. Package from the Grand Meridian Hotel. Inside, a card signed by the entire housekeeping staff. Simple message. Thank you for showing us what strength looks like, and underneath a small emerald green ribbon. From her uniform, Amara touched it gently. Some battles were won in courtrooms, others in hotel lobbies with a single word. No. She pinned the ribbon to her bulletin board, next to her father's photograph. Then she stood, straightened her royal blue blazer, and walked out to change the next broken system. 3 months later, Amara returned to the Grand Meridian Hotel, not as staff. As a guest, the lobby looked the same. Marble columns, crystal chandeliers, golden light, but something had shifted. The housekeepers moved with different energy. Visible now, respected. A young woman in an emerald uniform polished the brass railing near the staircase. She looked up, recognized Amara, and nodded. Colleague to colleague, Amara nodded back. She thought about that moment. The choice to refuse. How one word could become a revolution in miniature. Her father had taught her that power wasn't about wealth or titles. It was about knowing your worth when the world told you otherwise. About standing in spaces that demanded you kneel and saying no. Not today. Not ever. Marcus Harrington still ran his empire. But it was different now. Better. Not perfect, nothing ever was. But moving towards something that resembled justice. She stepped into the sunlight, carrying her father's journal. The final page no longer felt like pressure. It felt like permission. True authority is earned through respect, not demanded through fear. She closed the journal gently. Some lessons were written in boardrooms. Others were learned on marble floors. By refusing to clean shoes, you should never have been asked to clean. The difference between being seen and being invisible was simple. It started with seeing yourself first.